Have been captured along the mutually agreed humanitarian corridor. Climate change is describing it as a national security issue. The coalition of 17 high-ranking foreign.
Hello, this is Dave.
Non è così tanto. No, okay.
Do you need headphones? No?
Pardon?
Headphones off?
Okay, just being some call Derek a bit Clare.
I don't know. Like, what, need headphones?
Oh, yes, you do. Oh, you got
Words on this chat.
just the points.
Talking?
Yeah. It's straight forget about news. So weather.
News already done.
So weather, man. Music. Ay.
Imagine you've got happen on air.
Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I don't know how this is going to work with sound on the phone and sound live.
Dave, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys, yeah.
All right, lovely. One sec.
Record your message and press pound or press star to contact the operator.
Why'd you guys put me on hold? If anyone's listening to this, we're having some technical difficulties here.
Sorry about that. Can you, so 0413
678 403.
Hello.
Sorry, Dave. 1 second.
It's all right.
Just now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Perfect. Can you hear the radio as well?
I can. I'm not sure how we're going to do this live with the sound coming out live. So I'm either going to have to mute Mario on the live stream and then.
Yeah, do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Heads up, we have 30 seconds, then we're going live.
Okay.
Be there for my kids, so I quit. I've quit before, I just kept trying. I get to see their smiles every day. My youngsters are pretty happy too. They didn't want me to die from smokes like Dad did. My name is Ted, and family is my story.
Is it rush hour?
I was at so I went to get a haircut and they're like, hey, Brian, we're just training you. Can you get a free haircut? All right. And I called on this later.
It looks great.
Thank you. All right, let's do this.
Hello, and welcome to Business Insights with Mario and Matt. You're listening to a live 90.5 with Business of Life with Mario and Matt. I apologize, I'm a little bit off the mark today. Mario, how are you today?
I'm not bad, mate. Yourself?
Thank you.
Did you run your haircut?
Got my haircut, man. I'm glad I could get it in time. Just in time.
Just in time. Okay, let's go. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the live. I think we're 5 the Business of Life with Mario and Matt. And first, let me introduce our guest today. There's one guest in studio, and Ella Staniak. She's going to give the hard questions for our guest. Another side of Australia, there, Clare, who is truly somebody who you need to listen. By the way, Dave, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Oh, absolutely. Dave,
perfect.
So for all our listeners who want to join online, what you're doing, what's the website, please? The StreamYard.com?
Yeah, no. Yeah, they just need to. All they need to do is go onto LinkedIn. And on LinkedIn, you'll see, if you look for Dave Clare, you'll see that we've gone live, or on your Facebook. That we're streaming live via Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. We're going live around every platform that we can right now.
I didn't know you could share it live on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
News to me.
only the special ones.
Everybody, please join on LinkedIn. Look for
Yep.
the Dave Clare, Clare.
Yeah.
And you're going to join live on the screen studio with us, with Dave Clare. And Dave, needless to say, thank you for responding today to be our guest again. Thank you for organizing being live. And, let's start crunching the questions. Here we go. LinkedIn.com video.
Yeah, I'll leave that up for a little bit because it might be a bit to type. LinkedIn doesn't have really great links in LinkedIn. How's the irony of all that, eh?
Okay, what I will do, I'll turn the camera now towards our guest, second guest in studio. She's into female leadership, and you know what the funny thing it is? I told her that, you want to do representation online, let's go in depth with everything. And she says, I tried to connect with Dave Clare for so many years. I sent him message, yeah. And she says, I'm now, yes. Doesn't really like it. That's interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, Dave Clare. So, Dave, let's go for the start. We need to reintroduce you back to our guest. So, please, Dave, start with your bio.
My bio. Okay, I'll give you the one that was written by my mother because she's the only one who speaks so highly of me. So, yes, I'm Dave Clare, a very proud father of 3. I would like to say that I'm world's greatest father for 20 odd years in a row. No trophy for that. And also I'd like to say I'm probably world's greatest husband for the last 15 years in a row. But once again, I have no trophy or proof of that. My 2 greatest joys in life are obviously my family, my wife and my kids. But outside of that, when I'm not being all those wonderful things and winning all those imaginary awards, what I am actually is the founder of Circle Leadership. And our organization helps leaders evolve themselves and their businesses to stay relevant in the hearts and minds of the people that they choose to serve. I'm also the ambassador for the Global Company Culture Association. I'm the ambassador for Smile Kumba, and I'm an author of the book Simplified. I'm currently working on my second book right now, You Can't Boss Someone into Greatness. I'm also the co-author of 3 other books, and one of them is here. I thought this might be of value since we're going to talk about women leadership. So women leading. Yeah, so Women Leading, the Pandemic Playbook, and Pivot and Grow. So I'm on that. And also Fit for Purpose Leaders is another book I'm co-authoring with someone at the moment. And outside of that, I'm a mentor for Inspiring Rare Birds. I was the very first male mentor for Inspiring Rare Birds, which is a organization by Joe Burston that runs all across Australia and other parts of the world now, actually helping female leaders and entrepreneurs. So I was the very first male mentor in that, which is something I'm very proud of. I've been mentoring in that for 6 years. I'm a master mentor with Next Level Mentoring, and I'm also a mentor for the WA Police Force. And outside of that,
I meant add on this, David Clare, he didn't mention, but I need to mention because it's my way to say.
Yeah.
I asked David Clare, a good friend of mine, to actually give his insights and review on my second book, Price of Freedom, talking about leadership, which I mentioned one chapter. So, Dave, thank you for that one.
Oh, my pleasure.
Thank you for the lovely introduction. So, I'm just sticking myself next to you. So, looking good now in my book. But thank you, Dave, so very much. That's very impressive. So, Dave, you can see now in the studio 2 faces.
Yes.
Matt is on one side and Ella on the other side. She's very happy, excited to see you because she's into female leadership and she's very keen to become your friend on LinkedIn. So, Dave, let's go start. Always this question I do have, which always is on top of my mind, and I believe that we discussed it very briefly in the first time when we spoke in studio.
Yep.
And I truly believe that that's all this overhyped, misunderstood, misinformed, and undefined properly, Dave. And who else better than you to define for us what is the leadership in corporate world, or maybe leadership across the world?
Yeah, thank you. So I have what I believe to be our definition of what leadership really is, and it can apply personally and or professionally. So to me, leadership is all about helping other people become the best version of themselves so they can do their life's best work while in your care and beyond. Okay, so when you think about that as a definition about helping others do their best, sort of be their best to do their best while in your care and beyond, firstly, you look at that statement, and to me, from a professional or business context, it says, I care about my people as human beings first, employees second. It also in there does not say you need to have a position or title to demonstrate leadership. So when we talk a lack of leadership depth and strength in organizations today, we might have a lot of positional leaders or managers in organizations, but I don't believe we have enough leadership in the organization. And that should be a culture where we lift everybody up, where everyone's responsible for demonstrating leadership throughout the organization. Can you imagine where we didn't have to wait for the almighty leaders to tell us what we're supposed to be doing and where we're supposed to be going and how we're supposed to do it? When actually sometimes we might need to be the ones to help that perceived CEO or whatever the organization. Like I know my team, I was on a call with my team and they were demonstrating leadership. Our marketing person, she was leading the conversation in that space because I'm not, and she was the best one to lead and coach me and the leadership coaches on how to market our content. And so anyone can demonstrate leadership in that. And they were helping us become the best that we could be and doing our best work in her care and beyond. So that's how I look at leadership, right? I don't care what your position, rank, or file is. That's irrelevant to me.
What I love about this episode, Mario, and what you've set up, is that you've got two leaders, I would say, significant leaders in that field. And having Ella next to me, I'd love to hear her take on leadership as well.
Yeah, 100%.
Ella, now it's your time to enjoy a conversation with Clare.
I'm just glad I got to go first.
This is so exciting on so many levels. Dave, so nice to meet you.
You too, Ella. And I apologize if I have not connected with you on LinkedIn for some reason. That's not like me.
Who cares, Dave? You're my friend, so who cares what is Thinking about leadership, I'm so sorry.
This is only my second time back in the studio with these two guys, but one thing I have learned is that if they don't start the show with a joke, it's not a good show. So there has to be an element of teasing, poking. So it was you this time, not me. Look, you're definitely a man of great passion and legacy. For me, a champion of feminine leadership, a champion of women in leadership at all levels of decision making. It is always so inspiring to meet and come across inspirational men like yourself. Yes, Mario and Matt, you too. Just people who truly support human potential. And I do like to say that the conversation about excellent leadership is not about whether a man or a woman is more capable of becoming a great leader. It's all about growing the internal skills of empathy, courage,
yes, 100%.
conscious development, evolution on so many levels. And so to answer the question, gentlemen, feminine leadership, my area of excitement.
Don't be too excited because Dave has something to say on that topic as well. I have a question for you.
But I am excited. Okay. Don't be too excited. Sipping some vodka, anyone?
But no one told me there was vodka on this show.
Anything with vodka, potatoes, pickles, and Polish cabbage. So
What else do you need?
I've got some in my handbag. I definitely stand by a message that the feminine leadership is highly misunderstood today. And there is that underlying misunderstanding of the word feminine being weak, submissive, unsubstantial. And it is totally a time in 2022 to change that message so we can encourage women to lead from their heart, from their passion, from a total embodiment of who they are and their capabilities, to lead and live the ultimate life in their career and personally. So feminine leadership for me is an art of owning your presence. And it is born in a place of complete integration of all facets of one's identity, physical, emotional, spiritual, psychological, for men and women.
I was going to ask that. The way you describe it sounds like a man of tool.
Well, it's a matter of awareness, right?
Absolutely.
So Dave, what is your interpretation of female leadership? I know you have substantial successes in that field, the book and presentations and mentoring. So how do you see female leadership in the corporate world?
How I see it is that we have
Dave,
a long way to go. Dave, sorry.
It's quite all right. One of the things for me is like when you talked about feminine leadership and not female leadership, right? And to me, that's really important. Like there's feminine energy and masculine energy, and whether the world needs more female leaders or But what it does needs more feminine energy in leadership. And I think, as a man, I like to think I'm in tune with my feminine side. I look at my mother as one of my, I always used to think my dad was one of my, the one I got a lot of my leadership stuff from. And I really got a lot more of my business savvy or work ethic from him. But the leadership, the stuff that's real leadership to me, I realized I got that from my mother. And it was the feminine energy, it was the empathy, the encouragement, and I think that's what the world needs a lot more. There's this imbalance between masculine and feminine in the world right now. And, we don't need all feminine, we don't need all masculine, but we need to have a really good richness, texture of feminine and masculine energy. And if that means more women in leadership roles, then I'm all for it. 100%. And, in all honesty, I look back all the leaders I've had in my life that I've had the pleasure of working with. So most of the best ones were women.
So then, on that topic, just ask you, I understood now what you said because I didn't pay attention what Ella is saying, feminine leadership, female leadership.
Yeah.
So, but on that note, it's clearly the world has lack of female leadership.
Oh, 100%.
In touch in leadership. And why is that? Is it a perception of society that females are not good as leaders, or is it still that bias of society, women belong to the kitchen? All these things is living in the 50s and 60s.
Well, I would imagine, and I'm sure Ella has a perspective on this, that would be, there'd be some of that, also male ego. A man does not want to be reporting to a woman and all this crap that goes on that I certainly don't buy into. But my only fear or concern, if you wish, whatever, is that I would love to see more women in leadership roles, female leaders, 100% entrepreneurs. Like this should be the time to shine. But don't try to be a man, or don't try to think like a man, because then we have, and this is where there's this perception of some female leaders that they feel they have to, be like masculine energy in the role. We need that feminine energy. We need that in the role. Don't lose that to get the role or get that, And men out there, if you're listening to this, put your ego aside. You're all raised by a mother, I assure you. Right? The first leader you ever had was a woman. So don't even think about the fact that because you're a man now or whatever, that, what, I look at it, I go, well, geez, the greatest leader I ever had and the very first leader I ever had was a woman. That was my mother.
That leads to the question for me, though. So when I look at leaders, majority of them have been male.
Yeah.
We're now seeing a rise in female leaders, which is great.
Yeah.
So my question to you, and same to you, Ella, as well, like you both have mentioned, we need to be incorporating both the masculine and the feminine energy, not disregarding one and not just having the other. So how can us as males, Dave, tap into our feminine energy, and Ella, how can females tap in more to their masculine energy so that they're not leading from an unbalanced state?
So did you ask how men can tap into the feminine side?
I sure did.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Please, Dave, you be first and Ella. I'm very curious.
Yeah, great question.
I don't think so, but
No. So, which do you want me to answer the? You want me to answer how the men can tap more into their feminine energy? Yeah, that part.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So, be more emotionally intelligent. They need to embrace their emotional intelligence for a start. A lot of us were raised, like especially my generation. I'm one of the first Gen Xers, I think. That you're not supposed to cry, and you're gonna be tough, and you got all this sort of stuff, and it's all I'm not gonna say I accept it. I understand that was what I was conditioned to believe, and all this sort of stuff. But in today's world, they're looking for authenticity. We've built all this shell and this. It's almost like this falseness about who we are as a human being, and we're afraid to show that. And we have to put up this bravado to protect actually what's in there. And so men, you need to let your walls down a little bit. And it's okay to show your emotions. It's okay. Hey, I'm a hugger. For me, I'm just unfortunately in today's world, that's people like me suffer because you can't hug people anymore. But you got to let your walls down, these emotional barriers and blocks that you had. And it can take time and you need some support around that, but don't be afraid to, express your emotions and how you feel about things. And don't think you have to have all the answers as the man. I need to know everything and I need to be the one who has all the answers. And even if I don't know, I'm going to call it this. And even if it's the wrong path, because I don't want to people to think that I'm weak or I don't know, or, if I empower my team, I'm going to be seen to be weak. It's all crap, guys. Please, if you listen, the best thing to do is just let it all go. You are a human being, just like whether you're male or female, you're a human being. You have emotions. You need to be able to embrace those emotions, because those things actually, and your emotional intelligence intact with that, will be more important than your IQ. Like, to me, like, you need to just break down some barriers, break down some walls, and create a safe place where you can do that and feel safe in doing that. And this is why, if we have a whole team, if we embrace a culture where leadership is about all of us lifting each other up to be our best, to do our best work, well, for me, I have to understand that I'm human. I'm going to fall down too when I'm learning to walk in a new way. And if I'm worried about what people are going to think about me because I'm a man and no, I shouldn't, then I'm going to deny my ability to become who I'm capable of, and therefore then I'm not creating space and capacity for my team to do that. And so I need to open all that up and allow that to happen. And the best way to do that is for me to tap into some of that feminine energy, because the masculine energy has got me to where I am. But it won't necessarily get me to where I need to be or what I'm capable of.
That's interesting. Ella, I'd love to hear your take on how females can tap into their masculine energy. Not necessarily the male, the masculine energy.
Well, the sad truth is, gentlemen, that women really do not need to tap onto any more to their masculine traits, because what has happened for so many decades now is that women unconsciously have modeled men in leadership for such a long time that they have adopted so many masculine traits in their behavior, professionally but also personally, that then became their operational way of being, working towards success. And unfortunately today, feminine leadership, unfortunately, that's how it is. It's all about helping women reconnect with their powerful feminine traits. So bringing them back to their natural blueprint as women, personally and professionally, so they can create equally whatever success means for all and each of the women, but also have thriving relationships, thriving well-being, and feel like a woman at any given scenario, and being able to draw from the masculine qualities and invite them in accordingly and when necessary. I have met so many incredible, powerful women in the last nearly 15 years in my coaching practice who have created extraordinary career success, only operating in their masculine qualities. And that, again, brings them to some sort of a cap on their potential. There is consequences to it.
Right.
And there are also women who, again, it's an unconscious process, have modeled masculine tendencies for such a long time that now a word feminine triggers them or even appears foreign.
I will just say something. I admire that Clare speaks about this, because we are still traditional male society. And
Sadly.
when you watch yourself as a Dave, but there you have the credibility, behind him, and he can say this, but you touch me because he's a female, but when you start talking about feminine side or female leadership, everybody on the paper is clear about it, it's great, and let's go celebrate this and whatever it is. But in reality, I like what David says, if I care what other people think, I grow up, and that's going to be a problem for me. Ladies and gentlemen, listening live 90.5. This is live with Matt and Mario, our guest in the studio. Dave, Clare, please check on LinkedIn and join us live in studio on the TV. Big TV Day. A great TV. Thank you, Dave. Come back on the show. Bye.
All the local news and all the great music on your sound, your community, alive.
You guys are live on air still, remember that.
Oh, hey, Dave, sorry. Oh, wait. Sorry, Dave, what was that?
You're all still live on air, remember that. I mean, like on here, you're still live.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We're still live on the on the StreamYard.
So appropriate behavior.
Yeah, I'm going to give you guys
No unhealthy snacks. No vodka.
Why you look at me? It's a short break. We can do whatever he wants.
Oh man.
Great conversation, Dave.
Yeah, I love what you said there, Emma. Yeah.
And I really appreciate all your expertise. It's hear the variety of layers to your expertise to leadership, organizationally, between men and women.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, there's a little bit of feedback. Quality.
Yeah, it's coming through the monitors. You might want to unmute us, probably if there's the feedback. So mute
Yeah,
us, sorry.
you muted during the thing. So can you guys hear me through the phone still?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was. Yeah. Yeah. No. And I appreciate thinking, but I just love the whole thing. Like that was my point earlier. It's like this masculine thing. Like women don't need to become. That's the problem. They've been trying to become too masculine. We need bring that what they naturally possess and bring that into leadership because we men need more of that. We need to. To me, it's. Yeah, that's the biggest concern right now. Is that I don't want women to become more like men. We want. If anyone needs to become more like anyone, men need to become more like women and don't bring that the feminine energy into it. To your point, I loved it. And I think this is some of the challenge we had there, and this is why this perception of women in leadership gets really bad because you have to be the B word to be a leader or a manager and not the boss word. But and that's wrong. It's wrong. It's just so wrong to me. Yeah. And like I said, I'm a very compassionate, caring human being, and I like once again I get that a lot from my mother in that sense, and I think I have a really good balance of that. I get the masculine stuff from my dad and feminine energy from my mom, and I can swing to one side and others from time to time. I can be overly feminine and I'm overly masculine, but I need to keep check on that for myself. And usually the masculine thing is when my ego hurts. It's when my ego hurts that to me is my masculine energy being hurt. But when my soul hurts, that's my feminine energy. That's why I walk to little people. Is that a soul decision or is that an ego decision you're making there? Does your soul hurt or does your ego hurt?
Yeah. So powerful. And I think this skills on its own for a person to develop at any level of leadership is gold. To be able to recognize whether you are operating from your sense of ego or whether you're operating from a sense of your higher self, your better self, your better being.
Yeah, absolutely. And and sadly, I am still male, and I am a human being, and for me, it's not so much because I get into my masculine space. It's how long do I stay there, or how long is it serving me, and do I recognize it, and if I can close the gap. Like this time, when I need masculine energy, and times when I need feminine energy, but when I'm too much in one, it's being able to identify that, and then going, oh, okay, hey, you know what? Yeah, you're right, I am, and also in an organization like our organization, everybody answers to something first, not to someone. Whilst I'm the CEO and the founder, it doesn't matter. We all answer to our purpose through the lens of our values. And anyone can challenge me at any time without me taking offense. Plus, it might hurt my ego a little bit at times. I go, why are you asking me that? And I go, then it's just my ego hurting. But if, it's safe to be able to ask that and challenge each other. So.
Do you find yourself having a lot of conversations about ego in your field, in leadership development?
Only a little bit lately, to be honest. Yeah, more so now than ever, because I think whilst ego was my, and now it's a bit more. People are starting to realize that, oh crap, yeah, I need to be more authentic, more vulnerable, and I need to be truer to myself and who I am. In order to do that, you need to kind of let your ego down. Yeah, I always used to joke to people, my ego is so big that I don't have to worry about it. So is ego a bad thing? I don't know.
And would you say then that the topic of authenticity is something that you hear from your leaders, from your clients?
It's certainly something I challenge them on, and like how to, because everything we do is about how do I help you bring your best self to work as a leader. And if you're putting a facade over that best self, well, then you're not bringing your best self to work. You're bringing your best self to work with a shell. You're putting on the shield, a protective shield, that you're not bringing your best self. And then how can you become the best version of yourself, do your life's best work, if you're not doing that?
And it's 24 minutes to 3 on a live 90.5. You're listening to The Business of Life with Mario and Matt. And live in studio, we have Ella Staniak, but live on StreamYard. And by phone, we have Dave Clare. We've had an incredible conversation so far about leadership, talking about masculine and feminine leadership. Mario, I'm sure you have a question for our guest.
I just was listening to conversation with between Dave and Ella, and that's what shows me something very important. How much Dave is a great mentor. I mean, sharing the knowledge, not withholding the knowledge. But then let's go start again with this leadership. With the COVID, we briefly touched it in the last conversation you and I Matt had over the phone. But this time people can see you, they can sort of feel it. The expression, the face, body language. We talk about this one. Hey, what did happen? What did you saw? What was the biggest obstacle you saw for the leadership development during the COVID and now the post-COVID? Do you see the changes in that sector, or it's remains same, or people need a new upgrade of the leadership courses or something?
Yeah, that's a big topic, but I'll see if I can simplify it. I like to try to keep things simple.
You'll have another hour and a half there with us, so you can't go so easily from this show.
Oh no, I'm looking forward to Ella's insights on this too. I'm always willing to learn. So this is, so for me, firstly, please understand that in context prior to the pandemic, COVID, whatever you want to call it, my battle against leadership was that most of what we called leadership was actually just modern management practices, and that we really misunderstood what leadership was all about even before the pandemic. That is please understand that we lead people and we manage resources, and people are not a resource. People are not a means to an end. They are not an expendable commodity. They are not that. We should have resources for humans, not humans as a resource, right? That's what human resources should be. How do we resource our humans? But we treated them like a resource. We treated them like a line on the balance sheet, or like a line on the profit and loss statement, as a capital expense, or whatever you want to call it. And so all that was wrong anyway to start with before this. And if anything now, I would hope that through the pandemic, as this happened and we had to get our people home and get them safe and do all this sort of stuff, that, there was this sense of compassion started to come out. Unfortunately, it was more like a forced compassion. Helping them get set up at home, make sure they're safe, make sure they're okay, everything like that. And then as we went through this, the organizations started to realize that, how do I get my people to work from home and, get there? But then all of a sudden the old way of thinking came back in. Well, how do I know they're productive? How do I know that they're working? I can't trust. How do I know, in this whole of a sudden there's all this stuff you can put on your team's computers to spy on them and make sure they're working, and when they log in and when they log out. And that to me is endemic problem of your culture before the pandemic. It just brought to the surface all the things that were wrong with your organization or wrong with the leadership style in which you had, because you didn't create a culture of trust. You didn't create one where it was set up where everyone knew what they're supposed to be working on in productivity and more on outputs. Did you care more about when they punched in and out or how much they punch out? And so now you're worrying, well, because I can't see them, it means I don't know if they're working. And so then there's all this, all the holes in the culture or the leadership of the organization started to be exposed. And then also people started feeling really cool about being at home, and it's really nice, and the impact it had on their lifestyle. And for a lot of people, it was, there's some people it wasn't empathetic to that, but a lot of people going, this is great. I can get up at 7, do a bit of work, feed my kids, take them to school, get back on the thing, do some more work, have a workout, have lunch with my partner, do whatever. And then all of a sudden I'll throw a couple emails. And all of a sudden we have to go, how do I lead in an organization where they're not 9 to 5, they're not in my office, they're not here, I don't know what they're doing. And it created all this confusion and stuff for leaders around the world. And what that highlighted to me, to wrap it all up, is I'd been doing some study on the future of leadership and the future work probably back in 2016. I was going to speak at a conference. The conference ended up going ahead, but they wanted me to talk about the future of what I saw as the future of leadership. And so I did a lot of research, and what came up in that, and it's funny now because this is the way it is what I call the now of leadership, or the now of work. And that is that we needed a new organizational model, this top-down hierarchy. I'm the boss, you report to me, boss subordinate, sort of what I call an get back to ego system of leadership is no longer working in the world today. And it's so hard to even do when you have distributed working happening anyway. We have some people in the office, some people at home, some people at a cafe, all spread around. So, that whole structure doesn't work. But what we needed today is a interdependent, interlinked network of teams that are all working together, right? So we need a more flexible and agile organization that can move with the times, not this rigid structures of the past where empires and silos could be built. So we needed a new organizational model, and people are starting to work on new ways to work with their teams and get everyone all to work together in all different places. We need to create greater employee experiences. We need to make sure that people would love the place that they work and let them, because when, to me, culture is how we think and feel about things. So when I love the work that I do and I can speak that love to the market for just the joy of the work I get to do with the people I get to do it with, we need to create organizations where people can feel that remotely. And then the other thing is, in order to do that, and this is what I was talking about my next book. So the reason I'm writing the book I am is because if you want to help your organization be great, that means we need to help our team be great, to be the best that they can be. And you just can't boss someone into greatness. So what we need today is coaches, not bosses in an organization. And then the last thing then is, obviously, because of all this and what we're using today is technology. Is when you think about leadership from a point of view of our organization, making our people feel safe, that the technology we're bringing in isn't Terminator to overpower humans. We're bringing technology to turn you into Iron Man or Iron Women who are empowered by technology to be superheroes and do the work that humans must do. And that's, so the leadership today is all about how do we create those organizations? How do we help people be their best, do their best, and bring in a framework where they can bring their best self to work and where they can work better in teams than they have, where we answer to something, not to someone first, where we have all around leadership, not top down leadership, where, it's an amazing, and I really love working where I'm working with the people I'm working with, even if it's remotely. And that I can embrace technology that brings humans together. It doesn't tear us apart. That's my take on all that.
Just love how did you say one thing which is stuck in my mind. Why are you laughing, Mela? Do you know which one it is?
I'm trying to read your mind.
You can't.
Yeah, good luck with that. It's a vault. It's a vault.
You need to make this, somewhere visible, like in Matrix. You can't force somebody into greatness.
Yes.
How good is that when the people try to boss you to become greater? David, this is such a great quote. I won't steal it. If I steal it, you're going to know first. So I just want to try to make such a great saying. Ella, what do you have what this conversation saying?
I actually was going to refer to the same thing because it is so powerful. Even the book title, I Am, it is, again, so powerful to use it in leadership because people don't really listen to what we say and we want them to do. They look at who we are as leaders. And I feel like, people try to parent their children, bossing them to greatness. But it's kids as well. Just look at who we are being as parents and model just that. I like to say that there is a distinct difference between doing leadership and being leadership. For the purpose which you mentioned, Dave, it's because that's present who you are being and the quality to which and the standard to which you lead by example is powerful and is very influential. That creates trust. Like when I look at you and you are being a great leader and I know that I can trust you, I will follow through. I will stick through the tough times. But when I feel like I cannot trust you because there is a big difference between what you say you are going to do and what you execute on, I won't feel safe. I won't feel certain. I won't stand. And you won't, more than likely, you will not have my loyalty, right? Whether as an employee at any level.
Doesn't matter who you are. If you don't become what you want to put out there, you're, how do I say it? You're bark, no bite. And when I see, and you see it very often, I mean, Myra has definitely alluded to this in the past, especially when COVID happened, all these leaders and gurus taking up the space and saying, X, Y, Z, do, be, this and that. Just, you look at their life, and they're sitting at home, Uber Eats is coming with their KFC, and they're living the life that they're trying to get everyone else away from.
Yeah.
I believe that. Sorry, Dave, you want to say something?
No. I'll just, sorry, that's like, you get Dirty Bird showing up at your door, and then you're trying to present that you're this big, healthy, not that there's anything wrong with KFC. I enjoy it every now and again myself. And
Look, absolutely. The man with the brown bag every night knocking on the door, it's not always Uber driver, but it can be somebody else as well. But the thing is, Matt is absolutely correct. During the COVID started very hard. Everybody's like 2 weeks, we're going to be back on track, this, that. all these excuses, and then all these gurus come out, new ones, right? And it was a time of crisis. Nobody can deny there was no crisis. It was a crisis in so many levels, right? I think most importantly on the mental level. And the truly exemplary of the leadership was the people like Dave, like yourself, like you, Ella, who stayed there and pushed people, to become better, not to be bossy. I tried to boss my son to become greater, and that didn't work because he doesn't understand my English. Ladies and gentlemen, listening a line 90.5, the business of life with Matt and Mario. Take a short break and I'll give directly from the third, Dave Clare joined on LinkedIn of Dave Clare, and you're going to hop into the direct, how would you call this? Direct transmission. The stream yard.
The live stream. The live stream.
Guys.
I was just saying,
You'll have an immigrant teaching you English.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, very funny. Funny. Immigrant teaching you. What do you think I am? You're listening to Line 95, the business system. This is a live with Matt and Mario. We'll take a shot like Dave Clare from the third directly and streaming live from the third. And thank you, Immigrant Elastania, for teaching us English.
Alive 90.5.
I can't hear you guys.
People will never get it right or it's meant to be. My ego, her pride, some recipe. We are biggest fans and our own worst enemies. Ain't shy,
I can't hear you.
world no.
I can't hear you talking.
Blow, I blow, she move, I move, let her go, I go, stirred up, stand back, watch a fireworks show, eh? Quit when it's broke.
Can you hear me, Dave?
Yeah, now, the ad was playing. All I was hearing was the ad, yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is so high tech for me. Microphones flying everywhere. There's this massive console of buttons.
Yeah, that's why I like it in the studio here. It's a lot simpler.
Yeah, thank you. That's my headphones are setting up too.
Yeah. But I look forward to my time to come over to Sydney. Now that we're allowed out of WA, I was just in Melbourne last week, which was awesome. So my first time out of WA, and now I'm going to get over to Sydney and catch up with everybody over there in probably in May at this stage. But the goal is to get over there while we can.
Did you say you're coming for a visit to Sydney?
I'm probably aiming for May at this stage. I've got so much happening in April, so April's not going to happen. But yeah, looking for May to get over there.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So when is your next book coming up? I am.
So yeah, the You Can't Boss People into Greatness, that is scheduled probably for release or pre-release, I think July. So I'm just finishing off the manuscript now. So I've just been getting some really amazing organizations who are actually structured with a model of coaches, not leaders or bosses in their organization as part of the content for the book. So I've been doing some of that. I've got the main gist of it all written. It's just now getting some other organizations who are doing it so I can show people this is what it looks like when you're doing it. Here's the results you get from doing that. To me, all the work I do these days is about helping our clients become like coaches, not bosses. Yeah.
Was it the pandemic experience that propelled you to write another book, or was it already in making?
Well, the book was already obviously in me, I would imagine, but no, just the timing was right. Like I just found all the work I'm doing right now is about helping people learn how to become better at helping the people become the best version of themselves and do their life's best work. Well, in order to do that, you need to become a better coach, not a boss. And then that was all that work coming through that led me to go, you know what, this is showing up everywhere now. And this is probably something I should put into a book to help people. Yeah, like I don't write books for the sake of writing books or have fancy marketing brochures. I only use it if I'm going to write one, just because I have a message that I want to share with the world. And if it sells one copy or my kids get a copy, like my first book, Simplified, I think I shared with Mario before. Like when I wrote that was my whole thing about leadership and how to simplify it and this whole lead differently because leadership and management stuff. But if it just my kids all have a copy of the first copies of it, and if they just knew what their work that their dad was passionate about doing in the world and it didn't sell anything after that, that would have been awesome for me. So
sorry, Dave, they are laughing at me that I'm still carrying on the conversation with you. Dave is still live on 17 on his live.
Yeah, we're live. We're still live on we're still live on the live stream, guys. So
That's right. We're just talking about his book
There's,
Maybe
Yeah.
you should. Do you want to swap seats so you can have a moment of fame?
you'll
You
get,
said that taking a little break in the radio, so I thought
Wow.
I was going to
you know, the life of a radio star. Life of a radio star is very demanding. You know, it probably needs to go into to their green room and get some Evian water and redo their makeup. You know, they're like these superstar radio guys.
This is the best radio segment I've ever been on, and it's also the only radio segment officially the best.
Yeah. So Mario is one of those guys who has a face for radio, right? Mario has a face for radio. Hey?
The best radio.
Okay.
And here you now has some song. The remaining time is 15 seconds, Dave.
Okay.
Let's do it. These guys have some hot questions for you.
They're the best kind.
All right, heads up, guys. We have 15 seconds. We're back on, so I'm going to let you guys off preview.
We develop new skills while we have fun. Scouts is less screen time. In my reality, it's about making friends for life. Scouts prepares you for life's adventures. Check out your local scout group at joinscouts.com.au.
It's 6 minutes to 3 on a live 90.5.
Jesus, already.
Time's flying.
Jeez, oh my. Please continue, Matt.
Wow, yeah.
Sure.
You're listening to The Business of Life with Mario Bekes and Matthew Caruana. Live here with Ella Staniak and Dave Clare, live via Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, every social media platform. And we're talking about leadership today. We have two key leaders in the field, and I'm keen to continue this conversation for a lot more than
I'd like to continue this conversation, but, let's go what's feminine side, who's male, female, or, we'll have a consensus here, yes, because I don't know how to reach my feminine side inside of me. And I'm confused.
I can tell.
I know you're confused. I'd like to say thank you, Dave Clare, directly from Perth, streaming directly with us in the studio. So please visit his LinkedIn profile, Dave Clare, and we're going to join the studio live via the video link, and we're going to be glad you did it. So, Matt, please continue.
I'd love to revisit something we spoke about in the first segment. So in regards to leadership, both yourself, Ella, and Dave both referred and mentioned empathy. Now, that I believe is one of the key elements in terms of what Mario was saying earlier just then. In relation to tapping into your feminine energy, empathy is a big part of that. Emotional intelligence. Come on, Mario. So, I'd love to hear both Dave and Ella. I'll start with you, Ella. Empathy. What's its role in leadership and why is it valuable and key that we have?
Thank you, Ella.
I'm still breathing into this. I believe empathy is a quality which any leader should focus on possessing, practicing, executing, and simply leading with. It's not a quality of feminine or masculine, it's a quality of a leader. There are a couple of different aspects that are important to touch on, I believe. It's not as much about whether as a leader you consider yourself an empathetic person or not. Do your people perceive you as an empathetic person?
Because it's all about that, right? If they're not feeling understood or empathized, are you really leading someone?
That's right, and that comes down to so many layers. Number one, again, who you are being, so your body language, all the unspoken elements of communication. Then number two, verbal communication. How are you communicating the willingness to understand another human being, Also, how are you communicating company values, mission, vision? Is it worked in the culture? So I believe the conversation is more about the perception of the people of what empathy is. And if you do not know as a leader how to be more empathetic or whether people perceive you as, go and ask for feedback. Ask your people, ask for advice. What do they need from you? What is necessary in the critical, difficult times?
Please put us feedback.
Trusted people. People who you trust in your
Don't
network.
go to the leaders right and ask. Employee doesn't go to the leaders and ask for feedback. All leaders go to the employee.
If as the leader you are questioning your ability to be empathetic and whether your people in company perceive you as empathetic, go get help from wherever you need to, from a support person, from a coach, from a therapist, from your trusted personal network, and grow that skill. It's necessary. There's no shortcuts. You must. As a leader, you must find that out. And yeah, I am a big believer that people in organizations should be heard in that context. So ask people, survey people on a regular basis. Are they comfortable in the workplace? Are they being looked after by the workplace? Are their needs acknowledged? All that truly draws to demonstrating empathetic behavior from leadership all the way through organization.
Dave, I'd love to get your take on that.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I think I love what Ella had to say there. It's really, really powerful. I guess for me, when I think about empathy, firstly, is really getting clear on what is empathy. And I learned from a good friend of mine who's an EI expert, and Amy, and she said that most people think empathy is like putting yourself in their shoes, right? And really what she describes empathy as is putting yourself in the emotion that person's feeling at the time. Remember, Tom, when you felt the way that they're feeling, and how did that feel to be in that space, right? And be empathetic to that. Like, to me, that's where empathy is displayed best. Also, there's a misconception around empathy means if I have to empathize with you, means I have to start to agree with you. I can totally disagree with what you're saying and still be empathetic towards what you're dealing with, right? So to me, like, that's like ability to demonstrate empathy is to make that person, know that you can understand what they're feeling. Like, I don't have to agree with why or how or anything like that, but I can empathize with the way they feel about this situation. And to me, right now in the world, I did a thing a little while ago, is that, compassion and kindness, which to me would be ingredients in terms of demonstrating empathy, is actually just being compassionate and kind to other human beings, that everyone's going through some stuff right now. With this pandemic or whatever it is, like, the world's upside down right now and everything's uncertain and everyone's dealing with it in their own way. So let's be empathetic, or for me, compassion or kindness to that. Now, when it comes to feedback from a leadership point of view, I think we should be seeking feedback as much as possible, because how am I supposed to get better and become the best version of myself and do my life's best work while I'm in your care and beyond if I'm not getting feedback from you on that? Now, I have to also make that a safe place where you feel you can give me that feedback, because sometimes that might be very constructive feedback, and sometimes it might be the, hey, good pat on the back, Dave, like, love what you're doing, which is always nice and gives me a nice dopamine hit and feeds my ego. But when you say something that's constructive, my soul goes, oh, or maybe it's my ego that goes, oh, don't you talk to me like that. So we need to be able to embrace that.
Dave, I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm very sorry to cut you off there. It's an interesting perspective. Although, unfortunately, it has ticked overtime, and we have to get to the break.
Okay.
Although, when we come back after the news and the weather traffic, we're going to continue this last little bit on empathy, because, Dave, I do not want to miss what you have to say after this. Please stay tuned for the Business of Life with Mario and Matt.
Today's bulletin brought to you.
Hey, sorry about that, Dave. So,
it's all right. That segment cut quick.
I've gone overtime, and so just to keep the structure of the station and everything in order, I drew up the cut conversations typically at on the hour.
Yeah.
The only issue that I did there, I apologize. I started a big topic 4 minutes ago.
Just throws this whole thing in the middle there and goes, oh, now chew on that. Oh, by the way, you're going to stop right now.
I do apologize.
That's okay, man. It's all good.
I'll take that. But no, we're definitely going to just end. We're going to start the next segment, going back to what you were saying about empathy. I really want to hear the rest of it.
Yeah, I've got an important point, which I won't share in the live right now. We'll save that for later. We can banter about something else while everyone's being entertained here. So Ella, give us your bio. We didn't get your bio. I mean, you talked a little bit about, but give us your bio for the people watching this live stream. Who's Ella? And
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, awesome. Pardon? I have been in the coaching space for the last nearly 15 years and specializing in behavioral change, specifically in human leadership development. When I relocated from Poland to Australia at a very young age, I actually got started in fitness and wellness coaching for women executives. And this was the most extraordinary preparation for evolving into championing feminine leadership later on. Because fitness career and running my own businesses in coaching here in fitness and wellness coaching has taught me the power and incredible application of all masculine qualities, which is determination, consistency, drive, the application of the compound effect of action. So throughout most of my life, I operated in a masculine quality in a very successful manner. However, when I came across a different phase in my life, when I wanted to personally fall in love and be a woman in my personal life and not just a business owner and a go-getter, things have shifted for me majorly, and I needed to completely change operational strategies personally and professionally. So Feminine Leaders was born out of passion really to champion women, to help them reclaim their modesty, gain the sense of fearlessness, reconnect with their feminine qualities, and have it all with ease and grace.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, it's like that. Like any lady listening, embrace your moxie, and you can have it all with ease and grace. Like you don't have to take away anything from being a woman or being feminine, or whether like you can do it. Like it's and like in a, that to me is the really cool part. And like, because the reason why I jumped into, I don't know how long we have, but the leadership program, or so the mentoring program for women leaders and stuff that I did when I did it back in 2016, I think when I reached out to them was because of my daughter who was had an entrepreneurial thing that she wanted to do, a little side hustle she was working on when she was only 16 or something. And I whilst I'm her dad and I do what I do for a living, I wanted her to find her own role models and stuff like that. And I asked her to say, give me some people who or business, or do some research and find out, who's someone that you could, like look at as a potential, what I call secret mentor and she came back with a list of a couple of names, but none of them were women. And I thought, well, shit, that's a bit tough. But my daughter can't even find a woman that she could role model and, as a potential business. So.
It's 5 minutes past 3 here on Alive 90.5. You're listening to The Business of Life with Mario and Matt, and currently we're sitting at 23.5 degrees. It's not sunny out there. It's cloudy. The showers today, unfortunately, partly cloudy, and we're tops at 25 today. Tomorrow it's going to be a rainy day, unfortunately. Tops at 21 degrees, and tops above 23 on Friday. Let's hope things. Hope this rain subsides. We had enough of it for a few weeks, so I'm looking forward to it. So, well, let's continue this conversation on leadership. And so, I would love to start this just by Dave very kindly ending on his point on empathy and leadership. Because unfortunately, I did have to cut him off from the hour.
Yeah, no worries. So like when I was talking about empathy just before the break, one of the things that was about getting feedback and how important feedback was and things like that. One of the things I think we the simplicity of and ways to do this is, you should be having at least, if not every week, like a touch base with your team members, but at worst, a monthly one-on-one with them, right? So every month, if you're not one-on-one with any one of your direct people in your circle, that I would call your circle in terms of your team, the people you're coaching, and you're not having that one-on-one and having that coaching session for them specifically, in that session, one of the questions or a couple of questions you should be asking them is, what else could I be doing? How else could I be better serving you? so that you can get the feedback for yourself. And, if you could give me feedback or coaching, what would you coach me on? And so, be willing to make sure the space is safe, be willing to receive whatever that is from that person. Because in order for you to become the best, or for you to help them become their best, to do their life's best work, well, you need to continue to become your best, so that I keep increasing and creating space and capacity, and the capabilities for greatness for my team. Well, if I don't create that space, then I'm not creating space for the team. And so, in order for me to evolve, then that I need to do that. And to me, so there was all the discussion around empathy, which is important, but then you can, and understand how they feel in that moment. Once again, so it's about the emotional context, and make sure they feel safe. Because do you know what it's like to feel safe when you want to be able to express yourself in a way where it's not going to come back on you, right? And I always say to people, I'd rather I want to understand the truth. We can only move forward from the truth, and there's obviously your truth, my truth, and the truth in the middle somewhere maybe. But I need to understand what your truth is, what's true to you, and how you feel about that, so I can help you to become your best. And if I'm part of that in the way, then I definitely need to know that.
That's powerful, Dave, because it just creates a totally different perspective of accumulatively of what empathy really is, but also how it is perceived. So many golden nuggets there.
Thank you very much, Dave, and Ella, for you taking that. But with empathy, what we're doing is we're trying to understand other people, right? We're trying to see where they're at, see things from their shoes. So
No, we're not. No, we're not.
What do you mean we are not?
No, remember, like I said, it's not about seeing what it's like to be in their shoes. It's to understand how they feel. Empathy is about more like get into their emotion, not into their shoes.
Interesting. Can you expand on this, Dave?
Yeah, can you imagine what it's be like? Well, that's great. So, can I imagine what it's like to be a co-host there with you guys? Yeah, I can. But what I want to know what it feels like. What is it like? What it feels like? Ella, this is her first time in a studio. If I want to be empathetic to wow, I remember my first time. I was like, oh yeah, I remember how that felt. Like Ella, how momentous is this for you? Is this something you're going to cherish for the rest of your life? Is this, and empathy doesn't have to be when someone's negative, or it could be positive, right? Proactive or productive empathy, if you want. But it's understanding how that person feels at the moment. And I need to get in tune with her, how she's feeling. And then if I can reflect back on a time when I felt that way, and I go, oh, now I understand why she's feeling that way. And I know what it feels like to be that. That's what empathy is more about. Rather than just going, oh, I've been in that situation before, and here's how I'd handle it. No, like that person's hurting or they're joyous. Can you be empathetic and jump into the joy with them? Or if they're sad, you don't have to. Sympathetic is like feeling their pain. No, just empathy is about understanding what that emotion is that they're going through and what it felt like to go through that for yourself, and then helping that person through that. To me, it's get in, like my friend Amy said, is get into that emotion, not get into their shoes. And that's thanks to Amy Jacobson.
Sorry, Dave, can I ask, I think that we love talking about empathy, right?
Yep.
I've been surrounded so many times with people who are so empathetic, right? Truly believe it's actually quite opposite. I had the expression, misery loves company. So when you feel down, people come to you and they comfort you, actually comfort themselves. But in the same token, they say they're empathetic. And what I appreciate very much that you play this, what that means, because being empathetic, and one thing you said in the first style of the show, we grow up in different times than Matt and Ella. Empathy there was no space for empathy. With my father, what are you? You're the girl, you're the woman. You want to cry. You feel somebody. Not like a pain, but and then you're like, oh God, I hate everyone. I need to be the man. I need to man up. There's no place for empathy. And then life serves you, for some reason serves you at least when you expect it. And when my midget before my son, was 10, but I felt all empathy in funny, because I felt embarrassed that I didn't know that experience at that stage. That you feel that thing what empathy truly is. And in leadership, I've been, everybody also this quality people rough it up, and everything else. And I'm glad that we have the Dave Clare, Dave Clare. But Dave, on the next question. only writing on English because it's your language, not like me. But why did you write the books, and what book did you write? And what do you try to achieve with the books? And what is your, I would say, like advice to people who decide to write the books?
Don't.
What is the reason to write the books?
Don't.
What are you saying?
What are you saying? Don't like you try to empower now, Dave. Everybody, like you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
No more books in the world, so more people buy books from Dave.
That's love the way you think, Ella. Thank you. I wasn't even thinking through that lens, but I love that. Yeah, great question. It's really fascinating because I've been doing leadership and stuff like as a leader in organizations, leading my organizations, and then actually being coaching as a leadership coach or business coach, whatever you want to call me. Well, for 20 years now or more. And over the years, a lot of my clients have said, like, you should write a book, you should write a book, you should write a book. And I think there's two reasons why you write a book. One is you want a very expensive marketing brochure. And secondly is you have a voice or message you want to share with the world.
yes.
Right. And so, and please, any authors, if you disagree with me, I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm only sorry because I'm Canadian. We say sorry. But is that to me, that was where my thoughts were about books. Like I see a whole bunch of people who all of a sudden they get more speaking gigs or they do this. So they wrote a book so that it was like, to me, it's just an expensive marketing brochure. And I didn't want that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. It just wasn't what I wanted. And so I didn't write a book until I had my voice and my message clear. And then when I got very clear on that, because I didn't want to also become another Me Too author on leadership. All right. I needed to make sure I had my own voice and my message and how I saw it. And when I started looking at the world of leadership, and that's what I was saying earlier about, leadership is just modern management practices. And we're treating people like a resource and all this sort of stuff. So I wanted to write a book to help leaders understand that leadership's all about people. And that it actually, it's time we lead differently, and it doesn't have to be complicated. So that's why I wrote a book called Simplified. And when I wrote that, I also, and I was sharing this in the break before, I wanted to write that book so my kids knew if it didn't sell one copy, but my kids got a copy of because it's my life's work. So Simplified was kind of like my life's workbook, and that my kids would know the problem that their dad was passionate about solving in this world. And so I had a vehicle that I could share with everybody, and that my kids would know that, hey, when I talk about purpose and doing the thing that you love and that you're most passionate about and find that problem you want to solve in the world and put everything into it and do that's what leadership is for me. And I wanted them to know that. And then, so they always have a copy of it. So that was the first book that I wrote. And it's kind of like what I call the handbook for leadership in a modern world, if you like, or rather than just modern leadership practices. It's really getting back to the three things that people want most and how to build an organization that can deliver that. So how do we make more human organizations, I guess? So, and once I had all that decided, then I said, well, how do I get that to all the people? Then the book became the obvious distribution channel for that. And so I wrote a book. Now that first book took me like 2 years. The only reason why Joe said don't, it was so many rewrites and title changes and, Sundays and like just hammering away on the computer and and then I try to put everything in the book and then take stuff out. And then I got a book coach and then told me one thing and then another book coach tried to tell me something. The whole process was phenomenal and learning. But now,
To sum it up in a few sentences, what would be the one thing? What could one thing be for anyone looking out there to write a book if they really want to, even though your advice is not to?
No.
What would you say?
No, he didn't say it's not that his advice on to write a book.
Yeah.
One, it's he can have very expensive marketing brochure.
Yeah.
Secondly, he wanted to put a voice on.
Yeah.
So there's a tool.
Depends how you're using that.
Yeah. So any advice I would give any author is be very clear on what the purpose of not the purpose of the content of the book, but what's the purpose of the book? Why are you writing the book? And as long as you know that, and if it is for marketing purposes, that's awesome. Then market the crap out of it and use it as because it's going to cost you a bit of money to do that, time and energy and everything like that to do that book, which is cool. But then make sure you use it for that purpose. Like do it. And it might turn into something else, which is fine. But for me, I've probably only sold a couple of thousand copies of Simplified, which is fine. I give them out a lot as well. And
Look like a couple thousand
Very
copies.
casually.
Very casual, just like it's look, obviously it's a great topic, and obviously we just said before the COVID, I was in the midst of that revolution of these books, right? And everybody was writing books, writing books. Right? But there's a difference in writing books like leadership. There's a lot of opinion-based books about leadership. And I always come back to one thing, come back to university. You can put argument, but it's counter-argument. There's not opinion anymore. That's what David is done here. And that's successful. That being said, my next book is going to be about cooking class, chocolate, something more delicious and everything else. Ladies and gentlemen, listening to Live at Quest Park, this is the live with Matt and Mario will take a shot at.
I can hear you.
Switching the mic, Dave.
That's right. Now, go ahead.
Yes?
So, no, go ahead.
You go.
I was just going to ask, I'm trying to find you on LinkedIn to make sure we're connected.
I'll send you a quick message if you like.
Yeah, let's get that on. Let's get that taken care of. I was trying to find you on LinkedIn, so I don't know if I've.
All right, I'll make this very easy.
Yeah, just send me a connection request if we're not connected already, please.
Okay. All right. I just say, hey, Dave.
Oh, so we are connected.
We are.
Yeah.
Take it as a compliment that you have had a stalker in a good way, not very creepy, a stalker, a kind of your expertise for a few years now.
Oh, well, thank you.
Not a stalker. Every crazy calls themselves not a stalker.
Yeah.
Dave, I'm just about to write my first book, so hearing your first story,
Yes.
2 years in making,
Yes.
and all the tears and everything else, I'm like,
Yeah, well, I can tell you how I'm writing a book now and how much easier now. So when we get back from the break, if you want, I'll tell you exactly how I'm writing a book now and how much easier it is.
Yes, please. I think that would be a great value for myself, selfishly, but also for anybody else who's thinking of writing the book. Because Mario is so right. There are so many opinion-based books on leadership, leadership project, leadership development, what leadership is, what isn't. And I am really looking forward to reading all of your books.
Thank you. Yeah. The second book, first co-authored book I did was the easiest one to read. So the Pandemic Playbook.
Oh, wow. There have been many people who have been very creatively prompted to write books and create in the midst of pandemic or throughout the pandemic.
Yeah.
A lot of good came out of it, as much as horrendous it is, and it had such difficult, profound, significant effect on the whole world.
Oh, absolutely. And, I've spoken to some people about that and done some lives around my whole take on this sort of stuff. And whilst it's been great in many, many ways, it's forced people to evolve. It's forced people to do some stuff they've been thinking about or not doing. It's forced a lot of people out of work. It's forced a lot of businesses to close. And whilst, once again, I can be very empathetic to that. I've lost business before in my past life and things like that. So, but some people, like, the best thing could have ever happened to them, because they're living their business in misery, and it's a struggle every day, and they're risking everything, and they're not. And maybe now's a chance, actually, because you started this business all for the wrong reasons, and you're not doing what you love doing, and there's a chance now you've been given this do-over or a chance to start again. And if you can see it as an opportunity rather than seeing it as this, oh crap, why has this happened to me? And this is why I talk about the difference between victim and victor mode. Instead of being a victim to this, if you became a victor from this, you may not like how it happened, but what could you do because it happened? You can't change that it happened, but you can either choose to wallow in it or decide, what can I do about it and what's the opportunity in it now? And a lot of people, and this is like when they talk about the Great Resignation, I don't think it's a great resignation. I think it's a great redirection or reassessment, or where people are starting to go, I'm tired of doing this crap. It's not what I enjoy doing. Why am I working 40 years for 40 hours a week to retire on 40% of what I've earned? Maybe I should just start. Maybe the world's telling me I should just go do what I love doing, because then you never know what's going to happen. And that's a good thing.
pandemic has highlighted a lot of dysfunction for people
Yeah.
find their roles professionally. And it has been crucial. Again, I am totally acknowledging the horrendous effects of it. People have lost loved ones, lost their income, lost their businesses.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it has been an opportunity to acknowledge what they have been tolerating, which does not align with their purpose, their vision, the next vision. And a lot of those tolerations have to go.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And then this is from a leadership point of view, as we were talking about earlier, when we go through this pandemic, I didn't make the point then, but I'll make it now, is where do you go when things get tough? You know, when like, you know what, and if when things get in panic and you go, oh, I got to spy on my people, or you're bringing out all these things that.
It's up 5 seconds.
Yep.
I feel like the bearer of bad news today. It's 23 minutes past 3 on a live 90.5, The Business of Life with Mario Bekes and Matthew Caravana. And we're live with Ella Staniak and Dave Clare live via LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, whatever social media platform you've got. And be sure to tune in live. You can see Dave in person instead of over the phone, which is, I think, much more beautiful experience. What do you think, Dave?
Well, I thank you for that. That's yeah. Well, I've been told never to joke about having a face for radio when you're on radio. So.
Why do you think I've got this role here in studio?
Come on now, like because someone needed to spice up Mario a bit there.
I've just been squeezing it from all my day. I can't even see you. They're using my iPad to communicate with you. I'm fighting for the mic, but thank you. I'm still here, so that's for sure. So Dave, thank you for clarifying for us that why the books and why need to get your objective. So Dave, in that note as well, when you have the book, how do you pass your knowledge expertise from these books and other years?
Yeah. Okay.
How you deliver the content of the book?
Okay, so once again, it's my book, Simplified. I can't speak for any other author, but my book, Simplified, for example.
Your book.
Yeah.
So how do you utilize your books in delivering, to create better leaders?
Yeah. So whenever, like with our clients, and or if I run a workshop or run an event, we give a copy of the book as part of them coming along to the event, so that they can have that, so that they, obviously have the content there. So if they need to, if you think you do it yourself, and that here's everything. Like everything I work with our clients on is pretty much in my first book, right? It's there. And the way I wrote the book, actually, and this is important, like I put a lot of science and psychology, if you like, into the book itself. But a book that's called Simplified, it can't be complicated. Okay, and so funny that.
Good point.
Yeah, so it's a fairly thick and heavy book, and people are like, oh, it's a big book. When they open it up, though, I had extra large font, so I made the font bigger than normal, right? So it's easy to and it is visual, and every page has a quote or a Clarism or something on it. So big bold text. Every chapter has a model, a metaphor, a story, quote, a worksheet. So you could take the book and you can read it from front to back, and it's awesome. Or you could just go randomly open up and go, oh, and there's an inspirational or whatever, motivational, whatever you want to call it, quote or comment, which maybe from me or from somebody else that was relevant to that topic. Or you can go, I'm really struggling helping my people, to understand how we think around here. So I want to go through a bit on values, and you just open up the values chapter and go, here's values. So I wrote it so that you could specifically target something. You could read it front to back, or you could just go randomly, shake it up and go, open up the page and go, there'll be something that'll jump out on every page, guaranteed, that you'll be able to see. So I wanted to make it like as a workbook, because I wanted it to be like the handbook for leaders that they could just, I wanted them to leave it on their desk. So it's like a reference manual, and so that's why we give it to the people. We have them understand, like, this is what it's for. And that's the way I designed that first book. So
thank you for clarifying this for us. I see that Ella, she has a very desire to ask something. Okay.
Yeah, me again, guys. I think it's an incredible idea and how creative that the font is bigger, there are models, because at the end of the day, we live in a very busy society, and I do believe that leadership is one of the most, nearly unthanked for roles. nearly unthanked for, that there is,
What would be an example of that?
that there is so much that developing as a leader and then performing as a leader.
Yep.
To a great degree, to a great standard, long-term thing takes something.
Because everybody wants to be leader.
And a lot of
When it's been glorified, when it's been putting amongst the white, unthinking, puffy clouds and this, in the middle of the full commendation. But be the leader, face the critique. And as I've said to you earlier in our conversation, nobody loves to stand against the wall and be shot. You know what I mean? Like, this is what is not allowed to critique. So, Dave, just on that hunter, just ask Dave, what's the difference between good leader and bad leader? Is there any difference? Is there any benchmark? Is there anything we can measure, good leader, bad leader?
Well, to me, the difference between a good leader and a bad leader is a good leader people want to work with and for. Bad leaders, people don't want to be around. They just tolerate or do until they can find something else. I mean, you can measure turnover. You can measure. It's like there's a lot of bad leaders, and people hang around for different reasons because they just can't find something else and stuff like that. And I've had some bad leaders in my life, but hey, anyone listening to this, if you have a bad leader, learn from them. Learn about the type of leader you don't want to be. Learn what it is that they're doing that you don't like. And that's what I like. My career growing up through banking and finance and a whole bunch of other stuff that I did, I probably, 15 different managers, and most of them were reasonably good or, really good. And there was the odd couple that were really ordinary. And I learned from them. So good leader or bad leader, you're going to learn from them. If you ignore the bad leader, you'll never learn from them. But then how do you measure? Well,
See, what comes up for me as you're talking, Dave, is, and Ellie as well, and Mario alluded to it. So the leader is always putting themselves forward and is basically putting themselves in front of the wall, on the front line.
Yep.
To lead other people, it's scary. But that's like a politician, right? Come on.
No, hang on. Whoa. Okay. Just because you're a politician doesn't mean you're a leader. You might have a title. You might not be demonstrating leadership.
I concur with you, Dave.
Right. The problem with politics is we have too many politicians and not enough leaders.
So what I'm trying to say is, for example, you have the Prime Minister, which is if we're looking at it at a political standpoint in terms of the hierarchy, they're the main leader of Australia, right?
Yeah. But they report to a board of shareholders that you don't know about.
But its job is to lead other people.
Yeah.
So being in that position, and there's no one. I'm not saying they're doing a good job. That's completely
okay. Please continue. Yes.
So to be in that position requires so much. You're literally, if anyone at the front of the war, it's them facing the bullets, right? There's anyone. So the point I'm trying to make is, imagine being in that position, copying everything. Honestly, even though I may disagree with politicians and they might make me angry, but why does someone empathize?
I tell you something about leadership. What I learned when I was much more young and was skinny and good-looking guy and all these things. They believe it. This is the thing. We have the green book and the black book. Sorry, I apologize. Green book and the red book. Black book was something else. Green book was for peaceful times. Red book was for the war times.
Yeah.
And let me now just elaborate. Maybe it doesn't fit this conversation entirely. But I do remember, before every combat, before every time we go in action, me as a leader, it's a role, it's a function. According to your rank, my rank was being to lead in the combat, 120 people strong. And me as a leader needs to calculate killed in action, missing in action, wounded and so on. And percentage, I could be forward was 8%. That's a benchmark, 8%, from the fighting force, you can be dead, whatever it is. If you exceeded 0.1% or what was approved, you'll be denominated into dark ages. You never be leader because you given the life to, you know what I mean, as a, I don't know how to say, but the biggest, you know, token which you can get, you know, biggest commodity in life. And if you miss it, you're 0.1%, prove that you're not just a leader. You don't deserve not to lead. You have a position at one. And as Dave says, politicians, they're not leaders. They love to give themselves that title, I'm the leader. Leader of what? You're a publicly elected bureaucrat. Nobody positioned you there, you just voted there. But to be the leader in corporate world, or let's say when you're talking to the students, your action reflecting everybody else below. Am I correct? Correct. Dave, you know, so do you agree, Dave, in corporations as well?
Yeah.
You are, when you become leader, your influence over everybody is going to result somehow output of the work or, I mean, losses, benefits or something.
Yeah, and I love the word that you use, the word influence, because leadership is often aligned with influence. I know John Maxwell talked a lot about it in his work that, you know, leadership's all about influence. What does influence mean? How do you define influence?
How beautiful we are on Instagram or?
Yeah. Yeah, me with my can of soft drink going, oh, look at me, I'm an influencer. That definition. Yeah. Not that definition, no. When you think of the word influence, what does that mean to you? How do you define influence? Not being an influencer, what is influence?
For me, somebody, well, okay, influence for me, if I want to see like what you're doing, right? And I told you this morning in our conversation. I really like it, your energy. I love this little rebel inside of you and everything else. He's lining up with my life. This is the influence for me. For me, it's not the influence. You know, we spoke of this many times, Matt and I. For me, it's not to influence people on a social media because I know that 99.9% of these pictures, I know how it's been taken.
Yeah.
And I know what they represent. And I guarantee that 99% of the people portray themselves successful, rich entrepreneurs and influencers and the leaders on a social media, they are not.
Yes. But what does influence mean, Mario? Mario, what does influence mean?
Influence is, let's say, when I line up my values with somebody who I can look high.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a sense of alignment to you, right?
Yes.
Yeah, beautiful. So if you look at the word influence, in is a prefix for into, and fluence is the Latin or whatever derivative of the word flow or fluid, which means into flow. Ella, when are we at our best?
When we are connected and in alignment.
Yeah, when we're in flow, right? When we're in flow state.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You're listening to a lot 5, the business of life with Mario and Matt.
It should have been live on your platforms, and those boys are here misbehaving. I'm just trying to keep this ship floating. Okay?
Thank you.
Afloat.
Maybe there's just too much masculine energy in that radio in the studio right now.
Around the world, girls? No? No? I got it all wrong.
Okay. So Ella.
We are officially friends on LinkedIn.
Yes.
I really wanted to acknowledge the glorious Mario Bekes for the opportunity today for me to join your conversation, gentlemen. Matt, thanks so much as well. Incredible. It's so rewarding for me to represent women
Yes.
as a mutual and important element of this conversation.
And I thank you for being, because your feminine energy and mine has balanced out those two masculine dudes over the other side there.
Oh, Dave, I wish you could be just a fly on the wall. There is
so much male bravado going around. It's
there are like secret signs. There's sign language going on. The breaks are coming. There's all sorts of microphones moving in and out.
Yeah.
Chaos, beautiful chaos, very artistic.
So because we're on a break and we didn't get a chance to cover it on the last session, I'll tell you about the book. Okay.
Amazing.
But how I write the book now is, do you do any speaking? Do you do any like webinars or live stuff that you do with your clients and anything like that? So when you're clear on whatever your subject matter is and you run like an online workshop or do a speaking, what I did is I've been running some sessions on how to become a coach, not a boss, and stuff like that. And I've been using otter.ai to transcribe the workshop. And then that is most of the guts of the book.
I so needed to hear this today. I think the universe has sent me here today for this conversation to hear this.
So yeah, because also I'm surprisingly, I'm actually probably a better speaker than I am a writer. And I want to make sure that when I'm writing, it's the same. Like when you read my book, it's like you're speaking to me, right? I didn't want to lose that. And so far better for me to record myself speaking, and then it's because it also comes out of me naturally. Like when we talk about being in flow state, like I know my stuff, I love my stuff, and I've got it organized. And so when I speak it, I'm speaking it right from the soul level. I'm not reading from some teleprompter or anything like that. And so I can speak it at that level, and that's the level I want to write at. Okay.
You guys totally missed it. I think I'll share it with you. I'll forward the message.
Oh, just keep it our secret. Nobody else will know.
I'll forward the message to the boss. You're welcome. The guard of heaven, of everything. Right? You know, keep up the good vibes.
Go live.
Welcome back to the Business of Life on Alive 90.5. You're listening to this. Listen to that tune. I love it. You're listening to the Business of Life.
We having trouble with technology. Of course, you might find something. We are sure no press for it, but
Hey, there's some websites we should leave to ourselves. Mario?
Gentlemen.
Moving right along. Let's get back into flow state, guys. Let's get back into flow.
Back to the place.
okay, we have another 15 minutes of this last segment. And, it's flying very quickly, Dave. I'd like to say before anything else, please, everybody who's listening to the show today, this is Alive Mario and Matt. Our website, alive905.co.uk tonight at 6:30 p.m. And don't forget to click on the section. This is Alive with Matt and Mario. There's a podcast section, and you can listen to this interview with the day Clare heard many times and learn so many things. You want to learn how you can contact him as well. Our guest is Ella Staniak, for which we are very grateful, Matt and I. She shared the studio with us. She pushed Matt into the corner from the studio like I call it. So Ella, maybe you want to take a conversation with Dave. Would you like to continue a conversation with Dave?
I would love to continue a conversation with Dave, if I may.
If you may. You've taken up the studio today, haven't you? You might as well be the DJ.
For the next 15 minutes.
Go for it. Let's do it.
Thank you, Ella. That will be for you.
I'm just getting teased here at the opportunity. Love it. Good vibes. Dave, you shared a really important tip just on our radio break around how to write a book in a way that it really aligns and it's got the message and it aligns with you. I guess you talked about creative flow and what works for you. Would you be able to please share again
Sure.
with our listeners today of what that was?
I thought we were going to keep this as our secret. No, yeah, absolutely. And this is something I learned from a very good friend of mine, because I was after my first book and co-authored a couple other books, and I said, like, I'm a much better speaker than I am a writer. Like when I try to write my thoughts out, I was struggling with that, and to make it, because I want to make sure when people read my book, that if you read that book or you're talking to me right now, you go, holy crap, this guy wrote that book. That's him. that's his voice. Like I can hear his voice in my head. Like when you think, like, because it's exactly like that total alignment of who I am and how I speak. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think there's a lot of pressure on authors to make sure the book is technically correct and it's this, and we lose that creative flow, to your point, Ella. I remember Tom Peters, there was an interview with Tom Peters. He was over in Southeast Asia somewhere, and one of they were doing one of his book launches over there, and I remember the interview, and the lady said, it's not a very well-written book.
Oh my God, really?
Yeah, no, but hang on. His response was epic. He goes, I'm a best-selling author, not a best-selling writer. Right. Yeah, like I remember it from years ago, because I remember and it was anyway. So when you think about so for me, but I want to make sure that my tone, my everything, my heart, my compassion comes out. So what I learned to do, and especially this book, is because I'm doing a lot of work with people on how to become a coach, not a boss, and so I run a bunch of webinars or workshops and do some stuff like that. So I now, when I do the speaking, I actually record and get it transcribed, the workshop, and most of that content now has framed up the guts of the book.
So you don't need to be a writer to write a book.
No, yeah, right. So I'm a much better speaker than I am a writer, and so I do a lot of keynotes all around the world in Australia. Actually, and we're looking forward to a couple of events coming up outside of WA, because now we're allowed to get out. But when I speak, I'm speaking from my heart. I don't have a script. I don't have a teleprompter. I know my stuff. I love my stuff, and it's organized. And when I speak that, I'm speaking my truth, my tone, my everything. So when I record all that to me helps me keep that same message clear in the writing of the book.
Ellen, I'd love to ask, do you resonate with that? The whole, you're a better speaker, not necessarily a writer?
I think eventually I got there. I myself, after I relocated from Poland to Australia, had all sorts of limiting beliefs around my ability to speak second language, how I would come across, whether people could understand me. People still cannot.
Really?
I don't want you to practice funny, but it's not funny.
I mean, the gentle accent of, between Mario and I, very subtle.
My speed was Aussie.
Is Matt the only Aussie in the room? Matt, are you the only Australian?
Yes, I was only on the...
He's the only Aussie, yes.
Yes. But, to answer your question, it took a lot of, I think, A, practicing of speaking, B, practicing speaking with substance, so I don't ramble on and on and on. It was a matter of building that skill, so learning skill and practicing the skill, and then believing in myself and building the sense of courage that my voice and my message deserves to be heard, because I stand for something that is important in the world.
Wow. And
Yeah, that's so good.
Wow. And there's a lot underneath that. I love to ask, so apparently the biggest fear in the world, universally, is public speaking.
Yes.
No, you're wrong. The biggest fear is not hotel on the show.
Yeah, the biggest fear is no internet. Yeah, it's like not having it when your internet goes out.
I think it goes back to what Mario said earlier about everyone's scared to be in front when we're in war. So what I'd love to ask, and I'd love to start with you, Ella, is when it comes to speaking, public speaking, or whatever, it took a hell of a journey for you to articulate your message, have a bit of confidence to go and speak publicly, to lead others. How can others tap into their leadership within them so they can present and speak more efficiently for other people?
It's a great question, and I think I will just simply refer to what Dave already said, which is first you need to have a clarity of your why, your message. Whether you want to be a public speaker, write a book, you want to launch a business, you do have a passion to go into leadership, you are an aspiring leader, or you're somewhat just reviving your passion for leadership. Maybe you have been in leadership for a long time, but the passion has somewhere been lost along the way. That happens too. I think your core why, what you stand for, and what is the change that you're trying to achieve is the basis to anything else that you create. Writing a book, making a podcast, creating your own podcast, etc. That's my belief. And the rest of it is consistency and skill building. Whether it's writing or speaking, I believe a lot of it is just consistency of
It's
practice.
a legacy.
Yeah.
It is
Well,
legacy. But
yeah.
look, we almost, sorry, Dave, sorry, cutting your tape. We all know, we will not stay here forever on this planet.
No.
No. Except me, of course. I know Darth Vader. But the point it is...
Where are we going?
You're going, no, we're going back in forward there.
No!
Right. The point I'm trying to make is very simple. We're learning by either observing, listening, or reading, watching. Right? And majority comes to the books. Doesn't matter what you're doing in your life. If you're serious entrepreneur, if you're serious businessman, if you're serious writer, you're going to use books and whatever. You must. And I believe it doesn't matter what we're doing in our life. I mean, our books or whatever material we create, on YouTube or name it. Sooner or later, we're going to find a way to people who needed this. And I think that the biggest benefit of writing a book is, and I agree with that. Most people just write a book for the sake of, watch this space on the Facebook, I'll write a book. Watching this space, some people last 5 years, they're so bored, like everything is there. But I think it's important for the sake of human society that we leave the legacy. So whatever we learn right now, Dave, you and I, Matt, put on a paper. It's going to help somebody in 50 years. 100 years. You know what I mean? That's how we're learning. Maybe I'm mistaken, but I believe that's my way how it's legacy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well,
Creating a sustainable change.
yeah. Well, like I said, my first book was my life's work, right? So for me, that's so my kids would know, and then obviously my grandkids, whatever, they'll know what Granddad thought. Like I said, that's my legacy. That is my life's work. I think the interesting thing around this whole topic from a leadership point of view is that as a leader, you're a public speaker, whether you like it or not. Your ability to articulate forcefully and clearly on every single occasion your purpose, your values, your vision, your mission of your organization, and rally the troops to work with you. We work on we talk with our clients is that your purpose, values, vision, mission. That's the narrative of your business. If you have to be able to narrate your business and take people on a journey. And then your strategy and all that, that's the numbers is the story. So words form a narrative, numbers tell the story. And our job is to make them, the narrative and the story match. And if you are, the more capable you are at speaking and sharing and expressing that, the more people can buy into what it is that we're all doing together. And that's really important from a leader point of view. Whether you're running a team meeting, a town hall, whether it doesn't matter, or having a one-on-one with someone or bringing people into your organization, you got to bring them into the story. And so you need to learn how to tell the story properly. It's great to know the content, but you need to know the context so people can embrace the concept.
This is so good, eh?
So good.
I know the one good story. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful boy called Marius.
That's a narrative, right? That's the narrative. And then you get into the story. Right, so words form a narrative, and then you'll talk about all the things that happened, and that's the story. So you set up the narrative, and then you tell the story. And so to me, like that is so critical. And I have like Dave Clare's 4 steps for public speaking. I've never been a trained professional speaker. I've actually only done one thing. I've done one training to help me become better as a speaker, and I attended a comedy workshop because comedians are the best speakers.
It's the same thing that's going to put you out there. It's stand-up comedy.
Yeah, well, comedians are the best speakers. Like they take the most criticism, the critique. They understand timing, pace, pause, and all this sort of stuff. And I did a comedy workshop, how to write a joke and how to do that sort of stuff. And it was so for me, that's the only training I've done. But like for me, my 4-step simple process, which I'll share with you, is no. Can I swear on here? Is that inappropriate? Okay.
Maya can hopefully beep it out.
Okay. Just get ready with the beeper. What? Number 1, know your shit. Don't speak about anything you don't know. Right? Number 2, love your shit. Don't speak about anything you don't love. Number 3, organize your shit. Put it in a simple, easy, process for people to follow. Right? And number 4, to Ella's point, share the shit out of your shit. Because you're never going to get better at it the more you do it.
God, I want this. This is so.
That's good shit.
Yeah, yay.
Hey,
on the public radio, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Sorry,
Very
everyone.
far away, they first we come and censor him, but
Why didn't you teach me the rules? I need some guidance of how to.
I'm Canadian. I'm Canadian. I'm sorry. I get away with it. I'm sorry. All right.
people like, you know, like in the kindergarten and just tell the kids, so like, what did you know? Did you teach me? You're right, you can't swear. Okay, ladies
I
and
just
gentlemen.
carried on. Apologies, everyone.
Yes.
No, don't worry.
You were just wrapped up in the emotion of it all, and then you're like, I loved it, Ella. Well done. Yeah, but like it's that simple.
You're listening to Alive 90.5. Yes,
That's still on 9.5, but let's wrap up this episode by letting the listeners know how we can get in contact with each and every one of them.
who's with David Clare. Dave, so how the our listeners can find you and contact you, and people can call the name Magic Caruana for 50% discount for the services. So Dave, jokes aside, how the people can find you and contact you?
Yeah, easiest way is you can just go to my website, www.daveclare.com, DAVECLARE.com. And there's a contact form there. And anyone who says, hey, I said this before when we spoke on the radio, anyone who reaches out to me, I answer personally. So if you do reach out and said, hey, I heard you on the Murray and Matt show with the amazing Ella, who made the show even better because it's, you know, with these guys. You know.
I did. I mean, thank you.
Yeah. And then I will, if you want to set up a free call just to talk about anything that we've discussed on the show, I usually have 4 open spots where there's no obligation, nothing. We get online, do a little whiteboardy session. I can talk you through any of the concepts that you want. Please understand, I only have 4 slots every week, and they usually get filled up quickly. So,
Thank you so much. I already see the airline Matt is going to jump in because they're looking forward. Dave, thank you very much for being with us today on the line 9.5.
And Ella,
And
how can
Ella.
people get in contact with you?
I'll be commenting like that lunatic crazy person under this show, and I go back to LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, so you'll see me in the comments. So find me on LinkedIn, Ella Staniak, Feminine Leadership Coach, or you can type in Google Feminine Leadership Coach, and I will pop up with
Love you
SEO.
pop up, Dave. Please don't pop up. Dave, please stay with us online on video. Ladies and gentlemen, that was another episode of the Business of Life with Matthew. Matthew Mario. What is it? Did I miss something?
No, you didn't miss anything.
Okay. Anyway, that was it for today. Thank you, Dave Clare, for directly being with us in the studio, broadcasting online, and thank you, Ella Staniak, for the Make Your Message studio. So, see you next week.
yes, thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Really appreciate you guys. Have a wonderful week. And everyone else, make sure to tune in to Business of Life on Wednesdays from 2 to 4 on Live 8.5.
That baby got back. Oh, hang on. Let me. Yes, you're off mute now. You're still live. You're okay. You're.
You have to unmute.
I've unmuted
Oh,
you.
yeah.
Yes.
Ah!
You were saying something. What
Yeah,
did you
I've
say?
just unmuted the phone.
Dave, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I can hear you.
I don't know.
I can hear
You can
you.
hear us.
Yes.
Okay, Dave, I can't hear you for some reason.
That's the sound on your iPad.
Stop touching my stuff, eh? No, I can't.
And
Dave,
by the
thank
way,
you very
you're
much.
still live. You're still live.
Something was.
Relax.
All in the podcast now, and we can keep chatting
You want to
after.
say that tomorrow?
So thanks everybody. And thanks for all the comments, people there. Jump on, throw some comments. While we get the radio station sorted out. It's awesome. I look forward to any
Yeah.
contact.
Listen, I'll give you a call on mobile phone. Just give me a second.
Okay. This is what happens when you do live.